When me and AZ first did the Game Over, which is the true story to the movie Paid in Full, was based upon an article that came out back in 1995. He did a magazine article and he wasn't pleased with the words that the people wrote in the magazine. So he came to me, I came to him, and I said, listen, let's do a documentary. Let's do a video where people can see you visually speaking and talking about you, AZ, Richard, talking about AZ, Richard Porter, and Alpo. And as we started going along and gathering, different articles, different pictures, and speaking to different people who witnessed those times, who was in the audience at that time, it's like this masterpiece started to come together. And, neither one of us had camera experience, neither one of us had any experience as far as video, but it's like we went and rented these cameras, we went and, did our homework and was gathering pictures and archives, and it's like this masterpiece just started coming together, and which came out to be the Game Over.
Y'all could rap about it. Y'all could rap about the fly shit Richard had, his cars. But it's like, let him know where that shit may lead. My little brother was 12 years old, a regular little boy riding a little ET bike. And at 12, Richard chose to sell marijuana. My little brother Donnell at 12 was still riding bikes, going outside. Mommy, can I go out to play? So he was a regular little boy who was robbed of his life because of Richard's drug life.
What's going on, blood? What's happening, brother? What's happening? What's happening, brother? What's happening? I got something to say to the homeboys from around the way. What's going on? What's going wrong? Knocking each other off, word is wrong. Stop the violence, must live in peace and silence. I come to solve the problem. What you talking about, eh? 132 Harlem. Torture for crack, 12-year-old kid kidnapped. What's going on, black?
Guy Fisher's story is an historical piece because it's a landmark for black organized crime. You had Bumpy Johnson, Madam Queen, the Numbers, the liquor, then came the heroin trade. Now these guys, Nicky Barnes and Guy Fisher, they came up on this and elevated to become entrepreneurs. It was, even though it was from a negative standpoint, you also had this positive. These guys made it possible for blacks to realize that, listen, you can elevate past poverty and become businessmen.
Now it's such a penny game, but it was so much in it because when people are poor, they got to do something for someone.
Guy Fisher was on 60 Minutes. Everybody wants to see just exactly how he felt in terms of what Leroy Nicky Barnes had done in terms of testifying against him.
The Larry Davis story is a symbol of black strength, meaning you have a system, which is the government, which is politics, which is police, and Larry Davis went against the system. Larry Davis went against the norm, which is for people to bow down when police come, whether they coming for good or they coming for bad. And you have many people like Amadou Diallo, Louima, the Eleanor Bumpers case, and Rodney King, and so many different people who bowed down to cops or were shot down by cops or beat down by cops. And Larry Davis was a resistance to that. Larry Davis was, saying like, just him beating his whole case, just him beating the case against the cops and defeating the cops was saying that, as people, as a man, as a community, you, whether white or black, you must stand up for your rights by all means necessary. And that's what I think why Larry Davis goes down in history for anybody, white, black, or blue.
Do what you gotta do, man. I'm gonna put this in the wall. My hand up on the wall. I ain't touching it. Those in the stuff. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, I told them, if resisting, you know,
mother cried out, "Wow!"
Take him upstairs.
Now, the Larry Davis case shows you how the drugs were getting into the community. It was through the police, right? And the police bring the drugs into the community. People get hooked on the crack, the cocaine. It's disruptive to the family. And when it gets so disruptive, people commit crimes. You've got prisons with a massive, prison industrial complex that has come into being in the last 20 years to handle the incarceration of large numbers of Black and Latino men. This is why I say Larry is a metaphor for a genocidal war against Black people in America. And they've used drugs as a pretext to just wipe out a generation of young Black people, to wipe them out. And it's a sad, sad, sad thing. It's a sad thing. It's another form of slavery, if you ask me.
The suspect is known to be armed with a shotgun, .45 automatic, .357 Magnum, small caliber handgun, and an Uzi submachine gun.
Larry Davis is described as Black, 5'8" and 165 pounds. He used to have a mustache, but he is now clean-shaven with close-cropped hair.
When they shot the house up. No, but he ain't in there. He not in there.
First time I seen Larry was on the news, you know what I'm saying? Every station, every channel, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
He literally overpowered that group of killer cops who were coming to kill him.
I'd say he's a fairly expensive fugitive at this point then.
We've kept him.
I mean, he'll be causing what happened in the police case. And they don't like the fact that I exposed them the way I did.
He beat us. Not only beat us that night, he just keeps beating us. I can't understand this guy's life.
Larry Davis kept it gangster, man.
I'm sitting right on square one, trying to get my head.
He was a known kid in the community. As far as I can see, everybody knew him.
Actually, we was like any other average teenage kids. We liked to play basketball. Larry had a thing for driving. He liked to fix cars. He liked to fix motorcycles.
Well, I was a church-going kid. I stayed into hobbies. Like my best hobby I used to work for was motorsport and build motorcycles. I used to build motorcycles and stuff like that, different kind of motorcycles for the company. And I was young doing that. I had good jobs, and I did what young kids would do.
He liked the music. He had his little studio. He was trying to put out his own record. So basically, that's what we was into. Rap was, getting hot at that time. So basically, that's what me and Larry, that's what we was into at that time. Just really on the music business tip.
In my circles, I didn't come across a Larry, you know what I'm saying? But when I did meet him, I was surprised to see that he was on a level as these other DJs.
Larry played the piano, the organ, the keyboard. He was too musical for me.
Eventually, he taught me the structure of songs and stuff like that with bridges, you know what I'm saying, with verses, choruses, intros, outro, etc. You know what I'm saying? Larry taught me all that.
Back then, you didn't have too many brothers spending their money and into a record company.
He knew a couple of people in the business, you know what I'm saying? From Jimmy Douglas, you know what I'm saying? Bill Underwood, who was working with his brother.
Gene something. And I know he used to manage the New Edition cats, Teddy Riley and them. And he hooked up with this guy. And he was sending him the contracts, and he was like, yo, I don't believe me, I got this contract. You better read this. He gave us the contract to read, and we like, oh, it's real.
And he was like, yo, Shan, listen, the world is bigger than a block, B. You know what I'm saying? The business you trying to get in, this music, this entertainment, you know what I'm saying? They got all types of people, and you can't carry that type of attitude because you'll never get nowhere. So we was all right. We got girls, we got all that. We didn't have nothing, we didn't need to do anything to boost our ego. But what we didn't understand was this. In 85, if I'm correct, 86, that's when crack first started coming crazy in the hood.
These guys, man, started coming around the crib, you know, as far as I could tell. And they was coming around the crib, like he was always playing his music. My grandmother used to have to tell the dude to turn it down.
They would call Larry up and say, yo, we coming. And Larry would tell everybody, yo, y'all got to bounce, y'all got to bounce. He wouldn't tell us why. Y'all have to bounce. And who could walk up? Crazy Joe and Solomon. Sometimes Big Red used to walk up. You know what I'm saying? It was like 4 different cops.
You know what I'm saying? Then do a whole mind frame change, you know what I'm saying? Like he was just ready to just go to war with these cats, you know, but he wouldn't really let everybody know what was going on at the time.
They used to walk straight in the house, ask no questions. Walk straight up right through Miss Davis' house, straight upstairs, straight to Larry's room. Sometimes don't even knock, just walk straight in. Like they had a warrant or something, you know what I'm saying?
Joe had a method of recruiting people. He used to come around and shake down a lot of the young people in the area, and he would have all types of different pictures, and he would say, well, you know, as you see, we have pictures of you, and we know where you live at, and, you know, all we want you to do is, you know, you can make a little money just coming and standing in line up because, you know, we have a rapist walking around.
It's called Operation Condor, and it's federally funded to the NYPD to give officers overtime to go into what they would term cleaning up drug-infested neighborhoods, mainly Washington Heights and the South Bronx. So if you get pulled into one of these details uptown, every night you have to make 5 arrests, and this way you get overtime.
Police was coming through, and I'm not saying everybody, you're talking about a few. A dirty few, you know what I'm saying? That will come through and tell you, boom, listen, you gonna pump this.
Now they're making small-time arrests in the neighborhoods, giving kids in the neighborhood permanent records, arrest records, picking them up for maybe drinking a 40-ounce or smoking a joint. And they're going out and doing that 5 times a night, maybe 4 or 5 guys to a unit. Now, if they don't make those arrests, they get bounced out of the unit as they're being deemed not productive.
There was 2 types of officers. One type, if the right situation just happened to come around and they felt comfortable, they would rob and steal. There was other officers who would go out and hunt for opportunities to commit corrupt acts.
While some have said police corruption is not a widespread problem, the Mullen Commission says police corruption is a serious problem confronting the city.
Any kind of organized crime cannot go on in the United States without the cooperation of the police department.
Police got from the point where they might have got a couple of dollars for not busting somebody, not doing this, not doing that, to where they could be making crazy money overnight off this crack thing.
Dowd talked about how he made as much as $8,000 a week by protecting and sometimes shaking down drug dealers, how he often showed up to work at the 75th Precinct in Brooklyn in a drunken stupor, and how he snorted cocaine while in his patrol car.
I was using drugs heavily.
On the job?
Yes.
In uniform?
Yes.
While you were on duty, you're saying?
Yes.
What kind of drugs are you talking about?
Cocaine and alcohol.
Were you trying to conceal your use of drugs and alcohol on the job?
In the beginning, I did.
What about later on?
Well, I used to do it off the dashboard.
Off the dashboard?
Yeah.
The dashboard of your RMP?
Yeah.
Back then in the 80s, a lot of cops involved with that shit. The Dirty 30 is robbing niggas, taking niggas' money, taking niggas' guns, let niggas hustle again. Everybody was involved in this shit.
And not only the police, district attorneys, and perhaps even judges, people on the bench, were involved in profiting from running drugs.
You buy a judge. You buy many judges. You used to have a saying. You talk about a judge. You say he's in the pocket. What do you mean? He's in the pocket of those who gave him the job. He does what he's told to do.
Lawyers, judges, the government, everybody was involved in the 80s, man.
These niggas must be hitting lag, and I knew there wasn't no regular dudes, you know what I'm saying? I knew who it was. I basically knew, you know what I mean, Popo was hitting this nigga with all that top of the line shit, and I knew it was a big ball game. It wasn't easy for him to just slide out.
Whenever they catch me, I give them whatever I made that day. If I made $300 or $400, I gave the money up. And let me keep the drugs. When they found out I was down with Larry, they never fucked with me. And they know I had to pay Larry so Larry could pay him.
You know what I'm saying? I knew the shit was much serious than some regular hustling shit. You know what I mean? Some Broadway, going downtown. This wasn't that, you know what I mean? These niggas was hitting them with mountains, telling them, bring us something back.
You know how many Larry Davises there are walking the streets of New York City who work with the police in bringing drugs into their neighborhoods?
What turned out just to be business began to be blackmail.
I tell you, the turning point was when he had a girl who was pregnant by him. You know what I'm saying? This is a girl he cared about.
When I lost my son and, involving the woman I was involved with at that time, it was time to pull away from that kind of, dealings in terms of the drug thing.
I remember just sitting with him and he was talking, he was saying, yo, you know what I heard? I heard the reason why the baby died is cause, it was on cocaine. He never even knew the girl was using drugs. He said, yo, Sham, you know what happened? I found out that homeboy, talking about one of the police, you know what I'm saying, was the one supplying her with it. This is somebody that I was doing business with, Sham. I said, what? And I was like, yo, man, that's it, Pete. They killed my son. And that was like the turning point for him. Because he cared about the girl, but he really was enthusiastic. He was like excited because the girl was giving birth to his first child. It meant so much to him. And it just threw him off like, yo, that's it. I don't care, B. I'm out this game. What we gonna do with this music?
Now when Crazy Joe and Solomon found out that Larry was trying to get out the game and go into his own little business, shit went buck wild. They started busting everybody, started taking everybody's shit, and I was like, yo, what's going on?
I know the pressure was coming on, you know what I'm saying? With these high authorities and Larry, they was kind of getting upset now that he wasn't making it happen no more.
Threats on your fam, you got threats on, you know what I'm saying, your peoples. You got, you know what I mean? You just don't, you know, you gotta remember, this is not like we adults. We 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, you know, we little kids now.
They was running up everywhere, sisters, moms, old ladies, whoever, niggas on the corner, niggas affiliated, niggas who, everybody, you know what I'm saying?
They came to the house one day and made some threatening statements to the family.
A number of the police officers, two of them in any event, went to see his mother on October 30th of 1986.
You know where he is, that's your son. You know what you raised? You raised a dirty bastard. That's what you raised.
They came in there threatening dude life. Talking about when you see your son, you raised a bastard. And we're gonna kill him. Straight up. They just told his mother that they was gonna kill her son.
So he said, you tell him he gonna get a bullet right before his forehead, and he was pointing at my head then.
Larry had too much on the cops. He had too much. Anybody that knew Larry and lived on the west side or was down with the clique knew that the cops didn't like Larry. They wanted to kill him.
He said, you hear what I say? And he all off and just pushed me around on my shoulder.
And it was on and popping.
And see why a lot of people was leaving, especially Larry, being the #1 recruit, wanted to go into hiding.
And when Larry quit, he quit with their money. That is the money of the police officers. Well, you know, that doesn't fly.
Like I said, he was an excellent businessman. Like I said, he established his own record label. He had studios throughout the Bronx and a few in Manhattan. So we wanted to do, you know, be on the music tip. So like I said, like I said, the media talking about this happened and the cops are looking for Larry on this. No, the cops was looking for Larry way before that. And not because he did this or this allegation. No, they wanted their money.
And when he offered them resistance, that is when they decided to eliminate him.
They couldn't have their money. They wanted him dead.
looked like something out of a movie, man. I mean, it was crazy. They had the SWAT trucks, you know what I'm saying? You know, with the dudes dressed in black, SWAT team.
I said, don't shoot, don't shoot. My grandchildren there, too many grandchildren there.
Then there was a cop in front of us with the big white light, and he had the gun pointing at us, telling us to go upstairs.
People crawling on the fire escape. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, yo. And I wake up my brother and them and my cousin, and we run to the window and look, and we run downstairs and tell my grandmother.
I went out, and they had the guns sticking straight up all over, just guns. So, in the hard hats, all behind the cars, like they was, I don't know, like gangsters or something. Come out with your hands up. I said, what's happening? He said, ain't you Miss Davis? I said, yes, I am.
We look outside, they got the trucks pulling up with the high intensity light, flashing it on the house. They come in there and escort everybody out the house again. We got another call. This is like 12 o'clock at night. And that Friday before that, they just came in the house.
So they throw me up against the fence. And I failed.
And she was like, you know, y'all don't have to treat us this way. And then, you know, they told her she has to go in there. And then she fell a little bit.
I told him, I said, I'm sick. So I'm having chest pains. I said, I feel like I'm coming down with a heart attack. So he says, oh, you'll be all right.
It all began on a dark November night, the 19th, when a team of police officers assembled outside a Bronx tenement. They believed Larry Davis was harbored in the apartment of another sister, and they wanted him for questioning in the slaying of 4 reputed drug dealers in late October.
The same night the cops came, we was in the house, me and Sham. Okay, Larry feared for his life. Larry asked me and Sham to stay, but I begged Sham to leave because Larry kept telling us that the police kept harassing him. We seen the police circling and kept harassing the man. But Larry just stood at distance and just stood there and kept saying that the police is trying to kill him.
So next thing I get a phone call, and it was somebody about a magazine talking on the phone. And I was trying to get off the phone because I was cooking, but they just kept going on. And to me, I'm like, what are you calling me like 7 or 8 o'clock anyway? I was trying, I'm noticing something strange already, because all of a sudden a magazine people gonna call me, and nobody never called me before. I feel as they just was trying to tie up my line.
So I says, well, you want us to enter the door? You got a warrant. He said, there was no warrant. We'll knock on the door, and if he doesn't come out, we'll see if we can bullshit our way in, or maybe talk him out.
Somebody tapped my door, and I just said, come in. And I'm in a foyer in the hallway between my kitchen and going out the door. I was leaning on the washing machine on the phone. And as soon as I said, come in, they just bum rushed my house.
When I walked into the lobby, I got like 2 steps into the lobby when the apartment door opened, and I saw the detective. He did one of these, freeze.
They had guns right in my face, rifles, not guns, rifles. Like they were coming to kill somebody, assassinate.
I said the money was on the table. Don't shoot. The kids are in the room. Don't shoot. Take the money.
I heard something going like a firecracker, and I just dodged towards my kitchen because my kitchen was right there.
When he shot at me, I had a 9mm on. I had it on my side. I spent with the little girl and I hit the floor. And I realized when I looked up at the ceiling, I realized I was still there and that I wasn't out, but I actually was still alive. And they apparently thought that he did get a bullseye shot between the eyes. But when that gun shot, then that bullet came out, that 12 gauge, it was right between my eyes and I can see it coming in. As it came, I just pulled myself back with it. Because it hit me here, I had my head like that, and I could see it coming, and I pulled myself back like that, and I hit the floor with the little girl in my hand.
They were in a big hurry, and they got there, and they were running when they got out of the cars. And they literally ran in. And as they ran in, they were loading the shotguns and loading the rifles.
And I can hear the cops, one of the cops telling him, finish him. Finish everybody in here and let's get out of here.
We had information that some of them were drunk
that afterwards the police surgeon could smell liquor on their breath.
And an officer came in the kitchen, had me at gunpoint at my kitchen window. And as soon as he went to try to get back out, I just kept screaming out the window, please somebody call the police.
She was screaming like crazy. The detective ran right in the apartment. There was no way to stop. He just took off. We had to go in.
I fired one, hitting him with impact into the mouth, and then coming out the back of his neck, and he flew in the air into many of the other cops who was back behind him with weapons. So because he was between them and myself, they didn't begin just immediately shooting because he was there, and many of them dropped their guns trying to catch him in the air.
And when he opened up and fired, and they panicked, they dropped 7 weapons on the floor, and they fled.
When some of them caught them, they dropped their guns. And they said, back out, back the hell out. You got one, get out, back out. They're yelling and screaming, and you hear this, massive noise, yelling, screaming, cursing each other out on their way, pulling out. Get the hell out, get the hell out, back the hell out, cursing, cursing, cursing.
And the last cop that was in the kitchen with me, he peeked out to see what was going on. And that's the cop that got glazed in his head.
I stick my head out, and I can see the cops there, and they begin firing, trying to hit me in the head. And they had machine guns too. They were spraying the whole wall, looked like Swiss cheese from the holes. They were just shooting random. So I already had a visual perspective of where they were because I had already looked out. So then I grabbed the bedroll off the back of my sister's closet, which is right there in the hallway. And I said, I'm gonna use this as a decoy to make them think I'm running out there. So I threw it, and they began chasing it, shooting it, the bedroll. And when they did that, I came out and I fired, and I had hit one point-blank blast in the face, and I caught the other one on the floor because I already knew where they were.
My house was so crowded that they could have ran into each other and shot each other. That's how crowded it was.
And then there was more, and I can hear them yelling, Greta, he just got him, get out, back out. You know, they were screaming and took up, there's blood all over the place, there's blood all over the place, back out, screaming and cursing and everything.
He wasn't afraid, he just started shooting. I couldn't see the man to get a shot at him. I just kept firing to keep him away from me, and I imagine that's what everybody else was doing, just to keep him back. He was a lot of gunfire.
I seen more right at the door, so more started coming in. Then I bent down and looked from behind, looked out through the exit there between the living room and looked to see where they were, and I could see them in there ready to fire again. So I went into the bathroom, came in, and I knew where they were. And I started firing through the wall, and I knew exactly where they were, and I hit another one in the mouth, corner of the mouth. And I can hear them say, he's coming through the wall, he's coming through the wall, get out, back out, back out.
What's going on? Look, just take that and go down to the corner and make a right.
As I caught those two through the bathroom, one was coming up through I caught them through the wall in the bathroom. One was coming up, trying to do some type of Scarface move on me. He was coming up, climbing into the window, and he had his gun in his hand. And as I seen him coming, sticking his head up in the window, I jumped on the toilet bowl and I kicked him right out the window. And I can hear him screaming, yelling as he hit the floor.
I wish the media would stop second-guessing what happened in the apartment, what went wrong. This is a dangerous profession. Things go wrong. There's nothing you can do to stop it. The same procedure would have been used the following day to hit the same apartment. No one is to blame except for Larry Davis.
All I was thinking is my baby's somewhere dead, because I seen a baby blanket and it was full of blood. And I guess it was from one of the officers, because all the children were fine. But once I seen the baby blanket with the blood, all I kept saying is, one of my kids is gone.
I began to yell to my sister, are you all right? Are you all right? And then I can hear her say, Larry, I don't know where they at. I said, are you in here? Because I knew they was out of the apartment. I knew that, but I wanted to make sure they weren't in the kitchen, because the doors, when they open the apartment door, it blocks off the kitchen door, so you wouldn't know who's in there and know whether or not they ran in there while I was in the bathroom. So I I yelled, I said, Gina, you in there? Are you all right? She said, I'm all right, I'm all right. She said, they not in here, but she was yelling hysterical. Larry, you not in here? Is the kids all right? I said, the kids are all right. I said, are you all right? She said, yes, she was all right. I said, Gina, if they in there, let me know. Don't just come out of that room there and let them cops fire at me. She said, Larry, ain't nobody in here, ain't nobody. And I said, okay, when you come out, keep your hands down to your side and duck. So she came out, and I said, run to me. She ran to me. I said, go ahead, don't cut the light on. Just go and get the kids, and let's get out of here. I get to the door. As soon as I stick my head out, to look, slowly sticking my head out, he laying there, Sergeant Edward Coulter with a 12-gauge shotgun. And he's laying there with it. He fires, boom. And I looked and I could see the bullet. I could see it was just coming. There's 12 guys. I looked right down the barrel and he was standing like a little distance to the front door of the building, leading the exit to the building, the exit out. And the bullet, I turned my head like that. And the bullet went right into my other sister's apartment door.
Which saved his life, because when it hit the lock of his sister's door, the lock went open.
On another sister's apartment next door, sprung the lock so he could get around into her apartment, which opened on a courtyard where there were no police and where there were no bars on the windows.
To this day, I still don't know how I did it, but I did it. It was a distance, about good. From the window to some mountain cliff. This is a cliff outside the window over on the side. And this guy had some vicious pit bulls in that private house, that it was a private house owned. And I tell you, man, that's what I say to this day. I say, Allah bless me, because I jumped from that distance in midair and jumped at least, I would say just straight about 25 feet or probably more.
So he jumped out into the courtyard, over the wall, and got away.
Detectives in emergency service went to arrest someone on a warrant for homicide, and when they went to the door, he opened fire with a machine gun.
Here's a list of all the 6. 40-year-old Mary Buckley, shot in the mouth. 55-year-old John Ridge, treated and released last night. 42-year-old Donald O'Sullivan, who suffered a graze wound to the head. 46-year-old Thomas McCarran, shot in the neck. The most seriously injured, 26-year-old John O'Hara, shot in the face and may lose the sight in his left eye.
I went to a project building not too far away from there. And within no more than 3-4 minutes, it was at least about good 15,000 police cars.
Well, now Davis is accused of trying to kill again. His target this time, 6 police officers. He gunned them down last night, jumped out a window in the South Bronx, and is on the run.
Police is on a manhunt from Manhattan to the Bronx, looking for Larry Davis. Fuck the streets, so we had to close down spots, man. Being honest.
Coming down on the bus, 41 bus, and the whole Webster Avenue after Fordham Road was shut down.
I'm looking off the project building roof, and I can see everything. So I said, I gotta go check to make sure they didn't kill my sisters, though. So what I did, I came before they could start getting, they were trying to get people off the street. Get off the street, get out of here, scaring people off the street. So I went down and I just took the risk. I had put on a coat. I went to a person's house in that building that I knew. I got a coat, some glasses. I changed the hat. I went down, went back to the apartment building. Right where they were bringing in the other cops and stuff, and through the front door of the hospital, I stood behind Mayor Koch, Benjamin Ward, to make sure that my sisters and them came out of there alive. When I seen that, they came out all right, then I slowly eased away and went into the dark.
You stood behind the mayor and the police commissioner?
In the building, yeah. While they were looking all over the building, I'm right behind them.
They ran into a hail of gunfire when they tried to arrest a man wanted for 4 murders. He gunned them all down and got away.
He said, yo, turn to Channel 7 right now. Turn right now.
A man who apparently has no qualms about killing. Police describe him as a walking arsenal, extremely violent. They believe he would kill for absolutely no reason at all. He is a prime suspect in the execution-style murders of 4 men last month. Police are using an old photograph and an artist's sketch in their search for Davis. They're taking no chances.
So I turned to Channel 7, Eyewitness News. It had a record, label, everything just spinning around. RT Power, HBO Records. Larry Records produced. That's an old shit. What happened? He said, you haven't heard? He said, no. He said he got into a shootout with some police officers. The whole city is looking for him.
Larry Davis would take the New York City Police Department on one of the largest manhunts in the history of New York State.
Little kids, 3 and 2 years old, and they shut the house up.
No, but he ain't in there.
He's not in there.
Like everybody else in New York, Kunstler and I first came in contact with Larry Davis by watching television. Like everybody, we were glued to the television set, first with the details of the shootout, and then with the hunt for Larry Davis.
It was astounding when I first heard about it, because it was like the Robin Hood of the ghetto.
The obvious tension relaxed once police, after searching the house and the neighborhood, decided that Davis was nowhere to be found.
The New York City Police Department can break you down. You can ask just about any drug lord that's locked up behind now how they broke up their crew and got this brother to snitch on you and whatever like that. This brother was out here on the street, 19 years old, just turned 19, I believe, handling this stuff by himself for 2 weeks straight.
And of course, it was our fear that he was never going to survive to see the light of day. That the police, once they caught him, were going to kill him.
I knew they were watching everybody, any and everybody. If you didn't even have nothing to do with the situation, if you just knocked on my door, you was going to be watched later on.
I guess when the police came to my place, based on the label, they know that he was dealing with some type of music. So they wanted to find me to see if I can get in contact with him.
Earlier today, police had blanketed the neighborhood around East 168th Street, where Davis, the night before, had shot 6 police officers. Police went door to door, questioning neighbors, anyone who might have seen Davis.
They asked me, they said, listen, can we bug your phone, tap your phone line? They said, we can get a permit for this, some type of, whatever like that. I said, go ahead, do what you want to do. I doubt very seriously the brother would call my house. And like I said, shortly after that, the brother called the house, right? So, pick up the phone, and I said, my usual, yes. And I said, who's this? He says, me. I said, who's me? He said, you know who this is. And I started laughing. I said, yo, man, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And then he said, oh, man, shit just went crazy out here, man. I said, well, tell me what's going on, man. Just tell me the whole thing. And he was telling me his point of view right then on the phone, right? And I said, yo, man, they said that you had a shootout with the police, man. He said, yeah, man, they tried to kill me. They came in my sister's house and they tried to kill me, and they tried to kill my little nieces and nephews and stuff like that. So I couldn't let that happen. And he said, I wasn't trying to kill them. I was just shooting at them to back them up out of the house. They were shooting at themselves.
I knew about the wiretaps. I know everything there is to know about the police department.
Don't say any more right now, because they right here in my house. He said, they right there? I said, yeah. So he hung up. And when he hung up, the police officers at that moment, they turned on me.
As much as they were watching me, when I did come back, I was watching them for 3 days. I can tell you every move they made. When they were following one person, I'm right behind them. I knew their games. I knew how they played games.
Why the fuck you told them to get off the phone? Why the fuck you did this? I said, because this shit don't sound right. You telling me this brother right here, Larry, is a crazed brother right here. I said, this brother don't sound crazy. This brother sound like he's scared. What the fuck is going on here? You tell me what's going on here right now.
The big question, however, today, with so much police firepower in position last night, how did Davis manage to escape?
When we have to, in a sense, tiptoe because we don't want to hurt someone else and he doesn't care about who he hurts, then we're at a distinct disadvantage.
6 officers shot by the same man. That raises serious questions about procedure. Did the officers trying to arrest Davis go by the book? And were proper procedures followed after the shootout?
So somebody called in and made a report that they believed it. I went in the building. They weren't even sure. They said little guy, short guy, husky guy, he's in the building. I'm not sure it's him, but let's check and find out. So when they was checking the building out, I was on the 2nd floor. I then ran to the 14th floor to this woman's house who I didn't even know. But she attended the church of my mother's brother's church. I didn't even know that. And as we were sitting in the apartment, I knocked on the door. I seen one woman who came out the apartment. I said, miss, I said, you see all the cops outside the building? She said, yeah, that's why I was leaving my friend's house to go downstairs. I said, yeah, because I was standing by the elevator. I said, well, she said, I heard they was on the news that they're looking for Larry Davis. And she didn't know who I was. So she said, that's what they saying. So I said, well, I said, that's me. She said, for real? It's like hysterical. For real? Are you serious? I said, yeah. I said, what I need to do right now, I need to get in safe haven for an apartment here just to be easy for a few minutes, a few hours or something until it clear out. I can get out of this building.
20-year-old Larry Davis is still on the loose, the prime suspect in as many as 7 murders and the wounding of 6 New York City cops.
I went in the apartment. She didn't even know me. I went in the apartment and I explained the situation. And she was a very religious woman. She had some beautiful little children, playing with her children. And as we sat there, hoping these guys clear out, I'm hoping these guys clear out. Me and her began to talk, and then we find out that she goes to my mother's brother's church, and she knew they was buddies. Her husband came home. He was so scared. I mean, I ain't never seen it in my life. He's up there, Lord Jesus, please, please, please. This is the way he was talking. Please, they gonna kill us all. Oh God. I'm like, calm down, brother. You gonna be all right. Trust me on this. You gonna be all right. Just calm down.
Reports on the latest police moves to find their man.
The city's most wanted fugitive is still Larry Davis. For a week, police have been combing the city and conducting searches like this one of Davis's family's house. Today, the police department has nothing official to say about the search because such efforts are always conducted amidst tight security.
I came up with a plan that I learned a long time ago with dealing with the cops. So I said, listen, I told her husband, I said, listen, the kids ain't eat a big meal, man. Go get the kids something to eat. I'll give you money. I gave him the money. I said, but this is what I need you to do at the same time to get the kids a meal. Chinese store downstairs. I said, I want you to go call this number, which was my mother's house. I said, it's wiretap. I said, do not stay on the phone no more than 1 minute, less than that, and even less than that. Just get this message recorded. I said, if you're still on anything past 5 minutes, you tap the phone and they'll know right where you are. So I said, once you call that number, this is what you say. I said, you say, this is Larry, Ma, I'm all right, don't worry about me, blah, blah, blah. I got out the building and just don't more. I said, stay on there 1 minute, because they're gonna zero right in on that phone and try to tap it and see where you at. On his way back, he was got in the elevator, and one of the cops said, he said, I don't care who, he was in the elevator with the cops heading up back to the apartment. And the cop said, I don't care who got him in this house. I'm killing everybody. Anybody who holding him and hiding him in this house, talking about me, I'm killing everybody. So this guy's in the elevator, he already knee knocking, so he's scared to death. So first thing he thinks, these cops going in there kill his family. So then he goes and he said, listen, I would like to speak to your superior officer. I said, for what? Because you talking about killing people's families and stuff of this nature. I would like to speak to him because you know that's not the way you're supposed to be talking. I think I know where Larry Davis at. And they came out with it. Then they brought him to some superior officer. Then told him where I was.
If he really sincerely wants to give himself up, no cop is going to hurt him. No cop is going to touch him. When we took the person who killed the 10 people in Brooklyn, nobody touches these people.
I was not coming up out of there to meet NYPD because I know how vicious they are, and I was not just going to walk in the hands of NYPD. No way. I knew exactly how they get down.
For Larry Davis to do that incredibly brave, incredibly audacious act, say, I'm not going to be a victim. You're not going to go to church and cry over my body because I'm going to make sure that I walk out of this. It was phenomenal.
So I said, I'd rather go out, fight this battle with them than just walk in their hands because they'll try to kill you no matter what. And just lay the gun right to my side. I told them I want the FBI there. I want to talk to the FBI. And I explained it to the FBI, everything that was happening. And they told me, listen, we'll go over this and we'll work with you, get you out of the situation. and then said, you know, just come on out of there, lad. I'm not gonna have no gun on me. I'm gonna pass my badges under the door. You know we really FBI. And I told him nobody is to have guns on them. I said, I'm gonna come out. I said, if y'all pull a gun out, if you're gonna make me get itchy finger and I have to do what I gotta do. You gotta do me or I'm gonna do y'all. And I said, don't hurt me, I'm not gonna hurt you. You know, and then I came out the door, took off my shirt. I said, I'm gonna take off my shirt to make it clear that I don't have no weapon on me. I'm gonna turn slowly and everything. And I said, she'll be on the phone. She'll verify I put the weapon down. And I put the weapon down. And she's like, yeah, he put the weapon down. I got the weapon over here. And she was on the phone telling them, and the two FBI agents, they were outside the apartment, standing behind a bulletproof shield.
After 17 days on the run, Larry Davis would eventually turn himself in the full light of the media, and return for his safety.
The detective ran right in the apartment. There was no way to stop. He just took off. We had to go in.
I think he should be shot by all those 9 cops. Because this city's going to hell.
He actually engineered his own surrender in the full light of the press. He knew that the media was there, that what would happen is that the police would not be able to vent their anger in.
So we were very surprised and certainly very pleased to find out that he had survived his ordeal with the police. And I think we got the call shortly after he was taken into custody. Originally, Stanley Cohn was representing him. Stanley at that time was working for the Legal Aid Society. And Kunstler, who was the best-known civil rights lawyer in America at that time, got the call, and we met Larry shortly after that.
As soon as I heard about the case, Bill was sketchy about it. I think Mrs. Davis had gone to see Bill. And when I listened, I says, this is the most important case that you people are ever gonna see. And so Lynn says, well, get out to Rikers Island and talk to Larry.
The historical position of Larry's cases, when we first came into the picture, Larry had 5 cases. He had the murder of 5 drug dealers at their spot on Southern Boulevard in the Bronx. That was the first case against him. The second case against him was the shooting, the attempted murder of 6 policemen. The third case against him was a shooting in Upper Manhattan, in the apartments by the George Washington Bridge there. The fourth case against him was a shooting through a doorway where nobody actually saw who did the shooting, but the person believed it to be Larry. And the fifth was a kidnapping case, which came from when he was on the run, and he apparently commandeered a friend's father to drive him from one place to another. Well, of course, the kidnapping case was the least important, and they actually were tried in the order in which the prosecution, the DAs, thought they could get convictions.
The most difficult thing about the case at the beginning was making sure that Larry lived into the time that he stood trial. He was the subject of numerous attacks while he was being held in pretrial confinement.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, welcome.
Finally, Kunstler filed a successful motion to have him transferred into federal custody because the hostility of the police toward him was so great, there was a very real fear that he would be murdered, lynched in essence, before he ever stood trial.
Larry was was held initially at Rikers, then he was moved to the Bronx house to be close for trial. We came to court one day, Bill and I, and Larry said, we can't go forward. I was attacked last night. I got all stabbed up in my back, I think it was. He said, look, here are the marks, here's the shirt. You know, and this guy that did it, he wasn't even supposed to be there.
Would he now bring charges against the police?
I am going to bring charges. As long as I can get them, me and my lawyers are seeking to get you press charges against them for trying to murder you.
I tell you, the moment when I came into court to give my summation in the cop case, when I walked in there and I saw lined up in the front row all the cops that had been wounded, all the cops that had been on the raid, all showed up in uniform for the summation. In other words, to sit there and eyeball that jury as if to say, we are reminding you that what this man did. There was, I don't remember, Mary, whatever her name, whose whole face had been blown off even though she received plastic surgery, but there were all of them lined up in the front row.
They announced their purpose, and he began firing at the police. Police returned their fire, and
the blue line is basically a concept that has to do with the loyalty and fealty that one cop has for the other, and that no matter how heinous the crime a brother officer may commit, the other officers are going to be silent about it or are going to cover it up.
Our self-defense of Larry in the apartment hinged on the fact that the first policeman that rushed in there saw him at the end of the hall, rushed down and shot him with a shotgun.
When I walked into the lobby, I got like 2 steps into the lobby when the apartment door opened, and I saw the detective. He did one of these, freeze, or he started yelling, and I heard a woman start screaming. She was screaming like crazy. The detective ran right in the apartment. There was no way to stop. He just took off. We had to go in.
We had proof that there was a bullet found in the back apartment that had gone through a drawer.
He fired a 12 gauge. It grazed me here, as I would indicate here again. It grazed me here on the top of my head.
But how do you prove that that was the first shot? How did you prove that this was? And we hadn't been able to get any cops to say that anybody was carrying a shotgun in the initial group that rushed the apartment. They all said, oh no, they had handguns, oh no, they were the only emergency service had shotguns. Nobody had a shotgun, nobody had a shotgun.
It had gone, skimmed Larry's head, stuck in a desk, and it had 2 holes. And I remember the day that with lasers, we checked out the trajectory, and Lynn Stewart looked at that, and she looked at it, and she looked at it, and then she says, now we know why it was self-defense.
Ralph went, and Peter DeForest, who later played a very great role in this case, went also to the apartment. And Peter DeForest is the head of forensic sciences at John Jay College now.
If that gun had been fired from so many feet back, it would have to be fired in the air, following the trajectory of the bullet. And she walked it down to a place where it could be held in a man's hand. And he says, and this was where he was when he fired it. He was down the hallway in the bedroom, and it was a sure shot because Larry wasn't more than 4 or 5 feet from him. And he fired, and it creased Larry's head and took him down, and then he backed off and everybody let it go. And as Lynn Stewart pointed out, nobody runs down the hall to a man within 4 or 5 feet of a man who's firing at you. Larry hadn't fired a shot when that slug creased his head and took him down.
And that is, of course, what truly won the case. That and the ability of a Bronx jury to hear the truth and not run away from it.
The verdict was a stunning legal upset. Not guilty 16 times. Not guilty of murdering 4 reputed drug dealers. Not guilty of robbery.
I can't understand this guy's life.
He was acquitted of all the attempted murders and assaults and everything else. He was convicted of possession of the firearms.
But he also faces trial for 2 unrelated murder cases and kidnap and assault charges as well. Still, for the police officers who faced Larry Davis's guns, it is not enough.
The tragedy of the Larry Davis case is, as innocent as he was, they had enough cases and enough time they were determined to put him away. And if they hadn't succeeded on the one they succeeded on, they would have succeeded on the next one, or the one after that, or the one after that. There was no way on earth that this system was going to let him go.
Right after I get acquitted of the shooting the cop case, then they put an all-police jury who related to cops in one way or other. In fact, you had some people who were, one who was a law enforcement officer sitting on my jury. This is what I had, and there was no way around it. The judge forced these people to remain there, and some of them who wanted to get off the case because they couldn't be fair, because they had relatives who was cops.
Throughout this long months of this case, there has been a third prosecutor, or rather persecutor. That persecutor is the so-called judge here today.
Throughout this case, Davis has painted himself as a victim of corrupt police officers. He says he was a drug enforcer for rogue cops. He says he shot his way out of his sister's apartment only in self-defense. He even brought character witnesses to court today to tell the judge about his recent religious conversion to Islam.
This case around the drug dealer being killed, the drug dealers who were a part of a drug ring set up by the cops. These drug dealers refused to turn over money to the cops. Cops sent other drug dealers to kill this individual. The ones who killed him, the person, the drug dealer's wife who was in the apartment that day, she witnessed the actual persons who killed him.
This woman who was there in the building the night of the murder gets on the stand and says, blurts out, in fact, because the judge and the prosecutor were doing everything that they could to prevent this lady from saying this. But she said, she blurted out on the witness stand, I don't want, something to the effect of, I don't want to send an innocent man to jail.
Now, during trial, we had requested this witness come forward, and the district attorney had control over this witness. They refused to give us the accurate information so we can interview this witness.
Now, I spoke to her after she came off the witness stand. I spoke to her in the courtroom. She told me that she was a good friend of the murder victim's wife, Miss Torres. I think her name is Maria Torres. And she said that Miss Torres told her that those three men, I think the last name is Matos, Gall, and there's another guy named Tiki. She said his arm was cut off. They were Spanish. She said that they were responsible for the murder and not Larry Davis and his brother Eddie.
We brought in her neighbor, who was one of her best friends, and she told her who did it. And it was the district attorney's witnesses, two witnesses who were drug users and drug dealers. Might I add, these guys, the day of the actual killing, they went to the precinct and they picked out two persons, not me or not my brother.
I covered this in detail. I gave names, full names, addresses, direct quotes, testimony from that trial. And I guarantee that if you go back and look at the daily news stories, the New York Times stories, the Post stories about that coverage of that particular trial, you won't see anything in there about that testimony.
There's a perspective that says the police department is always right. The white sign is always right. And if he's a black man, he must have been wrong.
One of the biggest frustrations that I had as an editor, as a reporter during that 4-year tenure was coming to the realization that the mainstream white press in this city, and not only in this city but across the country, is very, very much involved
of what police will say and what newspapers will write about what police say regarding blacks.
They don't tell the whole truth. They don't tell what people need to know so they can make intelligent and informed decisions about a particular case.
The media had a campaign
to slander him, to make it look like he was some kind of a urban terrorist.
And they don't like the fact that I exposed them the way I did. They don't like that. So they want to make the public believe that I was guilty of something to justify the act.
No weapon formed against Jesus was the baddest man that ever walked on earth. Listen to the words of Christ. He said, I am he who opens the door that no man can shut. He said, I am he who closes the door that no man can open. That's a bad man. Wow.